Hello and welcome to another Revel Coach Conversation. My sister and I started this journey about 5 years ago, and every week we get a chance to meet some business leader that inspires us and gives us insight on how they got started and how they're so successful. And today I'm personally excited about Carey Sumner joining us because the first time I met him, I knew I would wanted to learn more from him. And Carey, welcome to Revel Coach Conversations.
Yeah, thanks so much. So great to be here. Excited to share a little bit.
Wonderful. Well, let's start from the beginning. How did you get into the world of consulting? And it's a new journey for you, right? It's like it's been
It,
less than 6 months.
yeah, so just about 6 months. So started last September. Officially, I had probably been consulting for a while before that, just not with Cresso Consulting as the official, hey, this is the only thing I'm doing. And it's funny, how did I start? It probably started when I was 15 and I started a lawn mowing business. And I just knew I wanted some extra money to buy a surfboard. And I think what was happening though was that entrepreneurial spirit was being awakened. And I never kind of then realized for a long time, every job I would have, I would start new things. And so eventually getting down the road of your career, you realize, oh, like I enjoy that process. I enjoy working with people who are entrepreneurs. And so eventually just through my various different experiences, really said, hey, we're going to set off on our own. We're going to launch Cresso, and we're going to just go help people with their businesses and their passions.
That is so exciting. Well, I definitely know that the journey of once you get to a certain point in your career, you get used to the constant paycheck of an employer, and like
Sure. Yeah.
you get very expensive, I guess, in life. Later in life. And so when Alice and I first started the conversation, we used to kind of have our motto as maybe I could. Because once you say maybe I could, there's like a lofty dream, like maybe I could go out on my own. But the
Yeah.
second you say it, that's when you start thinking about all your bills and responsibilities. Like, wait, could I actually make enough money going
Yeah.
into consulting? So can you just take us back to probably
Mhm.
months ago when you're like, maybe I could go for this, and then you took the leap, and what
Yeah.
that experience was like for you and your family?
I think I've had that maybe I could moment 3 or 4 times, and this is the one I actually jumped. Because you're right, like you're considering, oh, am I going to actually do this thing that I'm passionate about doing and doing, and I was doing it in the organizations that I was working in already, but am I going to be willing to just go risk it for me? And I don't know, maybe it's stage of life, maybe it's age, like you get to that certain point where you're like, well, I could always go back and get a job if it doesn't work out, but you maybe have just enough confidence in yourself and what you've seen accomplished that you say, no, I think we're at a point where this could happen. And I think for me, I had worked for a couple of organizations where I did some bigger projects. One was a $4 million facility renovation. One was starting a for-profit coffee shop for a nonprofit organization, and seeing those go really well kind of stokes that confidence and helps you understand, okay, you can do this. Of course, being a consultant, I try and practice what I preach. So there was definitely a build up of, okay, let's make sure we have the reserves. Let's make sure we have the right runway, and let's take it step by step. And so that really was my process of saying, okay, I've got some goals, some milestones. Like I said, I started last September. My goal was to start being cash positive in 2024. And so that actually happened in 2023. So once I started like actually hitting some of those goals early, then it was like, oh, okay, this can happen. Like this is what we're actually going to do. And so it's been fun so far.
So Carey, what's been the most let's say you've reached out to some potential clients, some potential customers. What's been the most fun part of your journey?
Yeah, so Cresso in Latin means to increase, multiply, and thrive. And so that's kind of what the business is founded on. I love to help people thrive, not to be the superhero for them, but to actually help them recognize they have within them everything they need right now. Sometimes you just need a guide along the way, someone maybe who's been there, or who can just give you that encouragement. Because especially if you're working with CEOs, if you're the CEO, no one is kind of there doing that for you. They're all looking up to you, thinking, oh, am I going to be able to feed my family and eat because of what you've done, right? And so the ability to come alongside of them and give them that encouragement, like they took the leap. They had a passion and idea. They said, I'm going to take all the risk on this and go out and do it. And now they're multiple years into that journey. They've got people who depend on them for livelihoods, jobs, all that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that's common with entrepreneurs is they're super passionate about their thing, but then they get it going and they realize, oh, the thing I'm passionate about is also a business too, right? It's two things. And so what I love is being able to come alongside of them on the business side of that and just say, hey, let's have some conversations. Let's get things out on a whiteboard. And they eventually answer their own questions, right? And so they begin to thrive as an organization simply because they have the passion for it. And so that's what I personally love, is to see them take those steps, see them grow, see them thrive, and what it is that they're actually passionate about and doing.
I could only imagine how great that is, because you've got such like a caring, giving heart. And so you're kind of in it with them. And then as they go through, they're celebrating with them and holding them accountable to what they want to do. So it's so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if somebody on this call is listening, and they're either, say, a CEO and they want to take their company to the next level, or they're a wishful entrepreneur and they want to take the leap, can you give us some insight to the how? So you talk about a process. I know you mentioned you work with Working Genius as well, but give us any sort of how you do you. And we'll ask kind of questions from that point of view to kind of teach some more or less our listeners your approach.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of think about what I do in three phases. One would be team development, one strategic planning, and one then is kind of financial profitability consulting. And so typically things are going to fall in one of those buckets. If it's like an entrepreneur or CEO, kind of like you were talking about, new initiative, like first thing to start with, what's the vision? Like, why are we doing this? What's the end destination we're trying to get to? Second thing is mapping some potential routes to actually get there. Okay, so you could do 1, 2, and 3. That'll get you here in this amount of time. It'll cost this amount of money, this amount of energy. Second option is this, right? And so kind of giving options of how to get there. And then third is sitting down and writing that out. One of the things that I don't love this part of it, but I've found it in life to be so essential, is you got to write it down, right? Like you have to have the step-by-step playbook and have a good plan out there. And one of the things I've had pushback in the past on is, oh, but what if the environment changes? What if something comes up? And what I've just learned is, yes, something always comes up. The environment always changes. And the nice, neat plan you put together at the beginning never is what you actually end up following step by step. Instead, what I find, though, is by writing it down, what you understand is when you're lost on the path to getting to that final destination of where you're going and how to make the adjustments. So if you don't have a map that shows you here's where I'm going, you never know that you're out there lost, wandering in the wilderness with no sense of how close am I to the actual goal that we've put out there. So for me, that typically involves sitting down with that leader and just gaining that understanding first of who they are, what are their passions, what are their hopes and dreams, what are they going for. One of the things I like to ask is, how long do you want to own this business? Is this something you want it for the next 3 to 5 years and sell it? Okay, that's one strategy to take. Do you want to own it and pass it on to your kids? that's a completely different strategy to take in building. And so you have to get to know the person first and understand what makes them tick, what are their passions, and what is this business to them. And then you can chart a really good course with them.
And do you have any predictable stumbling blocks, like where you're working with a client and they tend to always kind of break at one point, or they kind of just they can't break through maybe at one point?
I think it depends. To me, it depends on the person. So you mentioned working genius. I am a certified working genius coach. And so I start with that with anyone that I'm working with. I have them do the working genius assessment. And that's just for a real quick overview for anyone that doesn't know. Working genius is done by Patrick Lencioni and the Table Group, and the theory behind it is any work that we do has 6 essential parts to it. So wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. All of us have 2 of those that we're geniuses in, and 2 that we have frustrations with. And so the reason I like to start with that is then I know right off the bat where the frustrations are going to be, where those kind of potential roadblocks are, because the CEO is going to tend to shy away from doing those frustrations. And so that's kind of like that quick indicator light before we even get going of, hey, that's probably where some of their roadblock is coming from. So, in the ideation phase, if I've got a CEO who is really great with activation, they're really great on galvanizing people together and the discernment of ideas, I'm probably looking at the beginning for, okay, where are they generating new ideas? Like, how do they allow that to happen within their organization? And some people are really good about just innately developing other people to do that for them when that's not something that is really a passion point for them. And so that's, for me, how I kind of go about looking at those roadblocks that may come up, is from that individual standpoint. If there's one that I'd say comes up the most, it is the entrepreneurs who they're passionate about their thing, and it's the business stuff that sticks them, right? They don't realize they've grown beyond just the individual contributor. Like, they've grown. It's like they start as a solopreneur, they're just doing the thing, and now they've got 30 staff people and multiple millions of dollars in revenue, but they're still running the business like it's a solopreneur. And so there are just some systematic issues that come up when that happens.
What would the strategy be to take that to the next level? So we have the solopreneur, and now they have 30 and employees with multiple millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm asking this because a lot of the people that are entrepreneurs are very creative.
Yeah.
But they don't have that solid, I
Sure.
can take the business serious,
Yeah.
like that part of it. Like, they'd rather be in the playground of the creativity.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why I love them, because I love to take and structure that for them and help them have that plan. I think first it's recognizing that's the issue, right? Like, issue identification is key if you're going to solve any problem. And so then it's understanding, because these things aren't linear. It's not like, hey, they didn't scale any systems up. They've probably scaled a few things up. And so then it's identifying, oh, like, you probably need a bookkeeper on staff at this point who's managing the books. And then you can understand. Or, hey, in the ideation process of let's go start a new thing, let's also do the financial analysis to understand how we're going to cost allocate all the expenses to this. So now, when you're pricing, what to actually charge, not just, oh, well, I think we should charge this amount of money for this product or service. And then at the end of the day, you're not making any money. You're losing money on that business line. So to me, it's kind of that from the beginning let's sit down, chart that out. And now you've got a great plan for how to actually be profitable with that thing that you're really excited about. And so that for me, a lot of what I do ends up not just in a one-time consult, but more like in a monthly retainer over multiple months where we're going to work on something together. And so through that process of building that relationship together, those start to bubble to the surface where it's like, oh, okay, this is your passion point. So then these other things are probably where the gaps we need to find within your organization already are, or you may need to hire someone to help with that, because there is that break point of you need an internal COO, and you may not call it that. It may be called something else, but to help with some of that stuff, or you hire a consultant to come in from the outside.
And I love it because the value comes from the completion versus the idea and the consult. So like just a straight, short-term contract gives some good ideas, but if there isn't that accountability to go through all the different phases,
Yep.
that's where the value is.
And that's where I love what I get to do, because, sometimes those businesses I'm working with, they're not in a position from a salary standpoint to hire someone like me in a full-time capacity. And so it really, in some senses, turns into fractional work, right? Where it's like, okay, well, I can afford a COO for, 10 hours a month, right? We can come in, work on some of those systems together, and then help you get to that next level to eventually where you're going to grow the business and you'll make that higher. And for me, I love the diversity of what I get to do. So I'm never looking to take one of those roles with one of the companies, because the companies I'm working with are so varied in what they do. They're not one industry specific. So for me, I'm more than happy to help you get to that point and find that person.
That's wonderful. So switching gears just a little bit, you and I had a great conversation about 6 months ago, but we were talking about how you speak with your customers about pricing and value.
Yeah.
And the conversation, what I thought was neat, and we do have a lot of viewers who are in the coaching consulting practice, but it's kind of walking away from the hourly rate and then finding where the value is and the cost savings or lift. Can you share a little bit to that process?
So a lot of my thought on this comes from, I shared this video with you that a friend had shared with me, and it was designers doing logos. And so the easiest way for me to think about it was when I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's got a class full of people and he draws the Nike swoosh. And he asks, how valuable is this to Nike as a company? And of course, it's, one of the most valuable trademarks out there. So it's worth billions of dollars. And he says, but if I just came to you and made you a logo with this, how much would it be worth to you? Well, you've got limited funds to actually buy that swoosh. So it's not actually worth that much to you as an individual. Maybe you've got $1 million, $2 million business, right? And so the point that he was making is, if we just stick with an hourly rate, what we're doing is we're pricing hours. We're not pricing value that we bring to the people that we're serving. And so the encouragement that he gave it, and what I've tried to employ, is what is the value that we're returning as coaches, as consultants, and what is the value going to be? And so when I'm doing pricing, I'm trying to help the business owner think about what value will you derive, and trying to give them some transparency of what I think that's going to be on the upfront. And so a great one that I think about with this is when I do team development work with Working Genius, that's going to be focused a lot on employee retention. So we know anytime you turn over $100,000 salary, it's probably going to cost you around $50,000 to replace that employee. So if you're turning 5 of those over a year, if I can come in and help reduce that from 5 to 3, you've just saved $100,000, and then just simply asking the owner, what would it be worth to you if I saved you $100,000 this year? And letting them provide that answer, because I can't actually know what that value is to them. Some people, they're going to say, oh, that'd be worth 10% to me. I had someone tell me, I'd give you half, of which I said, yes, let's do it. Unfortunately, that was a theoretical exercise with them. But the point is letting them understand the value as opposed to trying to price myself in some way. And so that way they're not along the way questioning, is this worth it? Am I getting out of it? And one of the things I try and do is then quickly get to when we're in the engagement, how they understand they've already paid for the engagement that we're doing through the value that we create for them.
Wow, that's a very inspirational story and an easy way to look at how to price yourself in the market.
Yeah.
I think that's such a big fear for so many entrepreneurs,
yeah.
particularly people that are just using their skills and their talents and not actually having a product to sell. If I painted a picture and I could put a tag on it and say, well, here it is. This is what the tag says.
Yeah. And I will tell you, like, so I have the theory of that. And then there's the practice, right? Then there's okay, what's this going to be? But so part of what I'm doing is trying to get in that conversation is trying to get a sense of, where is this organization? One of the things I do is I consult with nonprofits and churches. And so they're just in a different financial picture than the actual businesses, entrepreneurs, CEOs that I'm working with. And so for them, the value is not the same in me giving them 3 or 4 hours a month in coaching and accessibility, but I have a heart and passion for that, right? My business is not built to just make money. It's built to help people increase, multiply, and thrive. And so it's adjusting and it's saying, okay, well, for this business where they're at, okay, this is what they're going to do. Now, eventually that means that my schedule's full and I have to say no to certain things, right? And so I think I heard someone say one time, Marcy, you may have told me this actually, if people aren't telling you no 10% of the time, you're priced too low, right? Like if people aren't saying no to you, then at some point you need to have an understanding, oh, you've got to adjust your pricing. The value you bring is greater than what you're actually asking for. And you're so right, Alison. I think we're so apt to undersell ourselves at times that I think I'm just learning in these first 6 months. Okay, like let's put the value out there, then let's have a combo about that if that's beyond where you guys are at right now.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's thinking about going out on her own, and she quickly shared the example when it came to pricing. It was like, yeah, would you rather have like an expensive plumber to come to your house for like 10 minutes or a really cheap one that stays there for 8 hours?
Oh, that's good.
Everyone would like the plumber in, fix it, and out. To stay.
That's great.
So Carey, So Carey, thank you so much for joining us. If somebody wants to get more in touch with you or learn more about your practice, what's the best way for them to get more information?
Yeah, so 2 super easy ways. They can email me, Carey@CressoConsulting.com. It's just Carey at CressoConsulting.com, or go to the website, CressoConsulting.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm not a huge social media person, so you're not going to find me out there on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. But I do use LinkedIn quite a bit. I try to post once a week or so just on things going on within the business and that kind of stuff. But yeah, those are the best ways.
Well, Carey, this has been such a delightful conversation. For Alison Nissen and Marcy Stoudt from Revel Coach, we are so glad that everyone has been here to listen today. And we hope that we've added
Revel
a little bit of
Coach
value
is a
to
collaborative
what your
platform
business is
that builds
experiencing.
leadership programs
Thank you.
for entrepreneurs, coaches, executives, and authors. For more information, visit us at revelcoach.com and follow us on LinkedIn to never miss an update.